Chief, we're gonna get started. She always runs away. Got his program. I know, that's okay. I was just gonna call a meeting to order and Are you guys ready back there? Darren? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. This thing's right in my face. Bonjour, good morning. Welcome everybody to the RTC meeting, which is actually being held on a Friday today, and it's not normal, but schedules are getting very complicated, so we appreciate everybody being with us today. I'd like to start with the invocation and make an announcement also that this morning we lost a friend and colleague and former tribal member, and that's Mark Anderson. He passed away peacefully this morning from an illness, and we want to relay our condolences and heartfelt sympathies to the family. And so with that, we'll start with invocation with Jean Goodsky. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here.
Okay, next we have approval of the agenda.
I have two additions. They're both going to be under Louise, and we'll put her right after Kim. And the first one is going to be a sole source request to purchase gift cards from Super One Foods. And the second one is a sole source request to purchase State of the Band t-shirts.
There's a couple of things I'd like to add to it. I have a question about a resolution. Also, I'd like to read a little bit from the ordinance number 56-99, bylaws.
What was that?
I said I have a question about a resolution, that's one. Second thing is, I would like to read a little bit from the ordinance number 56-99.
So you're adding yourself to the agenda? Are you adding yourself to the agenda?
No, I'd just like to add it to the agenda.
Okay. And then I have one more change due to the situation with the Anderson family. We're going to move Dave to be right after the consent agenda.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with those changes and additions?
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Minutes of a meeting held October 16, 2019 in Nett Lake.
I think on page 2, it was moved by Peter Bone, seconded by Dave Morrison Sr. to adopt resolution number 40-2020, supporting the efforts of the Prairie Island Indian community to acquire new reservation lands with the historic territory of the community for the purpose of replacing existing threatened lands with lands more suitable for the long-term health and welfare of the community. This resolution, I must point out, was only for land only, right? Not for a new gaming facility.
The Prairie Island, at the last MIGA meeting, I'm glad you brought that up. At the last MIGA meeting, which was held just this past week, Prairie Island is going around showing tribal councils and tribal entities within the state the situation they're in with regards to a nuclear facility close to their homes. The Army Corps engineers putting in the dam which flooded their ancestral homelands and graves, and then also the railroad. So basically, this is for land only. For the DC land attorney was there, and because they are trying to acquire new reservation lands, the gaming terminology has to be in there to make it equal, but it's for homes only. It's for housing only. And so they are willing to come to Bois Forte and other tribes. I know they went to Leech Lake to do their presentation and also did the presentation at MIGA. Yes, you are correct. It does have the gaming terminology just due to the fact that it's new reservation lands as a whole,
Okay.
but just that the terminology is in there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments, or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes from 10/16/19.
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Okay, do we have any new staff being introduced today? I don't believe we do. Okay.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda, and it is, the first item is adopted resolution number 41-2020 and 42-2020, loan with American Bank for Fortune Bay. Approved letter of support commitment for Melissa Wright for the Zero Suicide Model application. Approve the request from DNR-Environmental Program to purchase a Boss 92V snowplow for the Bois Forte DNR F-350 Super Duty EX Enviro 1 truck from ZTech. That was a lot. Lowest of 3 bids in the amount of $6,730. Approve the request from Chris Holm-Water Quality to purchase a 2012 F-250SD XLT XCab pickup truck from Iron Trail Motors, lowest of 3 bids, and to trade in 1 DNR pickup truck with a trade-in value of $21,000. The new truck will be $25,587 after the trade-in. Approve the transition of the Wilderness Kemper employees to the Wilderness Division of Fortune Bay. Approve the request from Randy Long to sole source the NPR in the amount of $10,268, which is required for KBFT to offer national programming. And finally, approve the request from Louise Isham to sole source 818 Elder gift cards from Northern Eagle Federal Credit Union in the amount of $31,084. Do we have any questions or a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Have just a comment about the resolution for the American Bank for Fortune Bay. That's for the siding project. And if you look at the resolution number 42-2020, the American Bank of the North, the lender of Minnesota State Banking Association, is willing to extend a loan in a principal amount of $7,767,911. And I'd just like to point out that we did not use the 1854 per capita payments as a collateral. I just want to point that out. And this is for the siding project that's going on at Fortune Bay right now. It's much needed.
Yeah, and I'm glad Shane brought that up, is because it's the siding project plus the covenants that we're required to have. The siding project was 4.2, and we are required, we had our covenants covered by Key Bank out of California, or the East Coast, I guess. I'm not really sure where it's located. But where? Cleveland. Oh, okay, well, wherever. Not even the East Coast, my God.
I don't think there's an ocean.
There's no ocean in Cleveland. But anyway.
The other East Coast.
The other East Coast. But anyway, we decided we want to use a lot of local vendors. We want to support our local economies. And that was, we also got a better deal from American Bank, so we are not penalized if we want to pay the loan off early or if we want to make additional payments, where with the other Key Bank, that would require penalties and we couldn't pay it off early. So American Bank gave us the best offer, and we do want to go with our local providers in the area. So any other comments on that? Go ahead, Shane.
Then the other thing is the approve the transition of the Wilderness Kemper employees to the Wilderness Division of Fortune Bay. Is that I'm glad to see that's finally happening. You know, I know we did move some of the key management staff over, but now it looks like all the employees will be given an option to come back and work for the Wilderness, and getting stuff straightened out over there, and looks good so far.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think on the second one, you approved the request from the DNR for the plow.
Yes.
Didn't we do that last meeting? Right here on,
We approve, under the page 1, are you referring to the approved the DNR to purchase a Boss 92V snowplow for the DNR 450 Super Duty pickup truck from ZTech?
Two different plows. Okay.
oh, okay.
All right, thank you.
Tara mentioned that there are two different plows, same style, but just two different plows for two different trucks.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. And granted, you see all these requests for approval for like vehicles or whatever. I want everybody to know that these are always within the budgets. of the programs that are requesting these purchases and sole sourcing, so. Any other comments or questions on the consent agenda?
Also, the approved the request for Louise Isham to sole source 818 Elder gift cards from Northern Eagle Federal Credit Union, amount of $31,084. Just want to make a note of the amount.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move.
Oh,
Second.
moved by Chief, seconded by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, silent, motion carried.
So first we have Dave Anderson with a resolution with MnDOT and Bois Forte Partnership Agreement Amendment Number 2, MnDOT Contract Number 1030206.
Right there, Dave. Good morning, Dave. Our condolences to you and your family, sir.
Oh, yeah, Mark, sorely missed. You will be. Good man.
Yes.
What I have here is
Shane.
amendment number 2 to an agreement that was signed off a few years ago regarding training between an agreement that was signed off between MnDOT and the Bois Forte tribal government partnership agreement, and this is an amendment to that. If you'll notice, the bottom line numbers of $222,109.81 is the same for the first phase of the training, and the next 2 years, 2020 and 21, it has no effect on that. So, moreover, it's reducing my hours to part-time status, which allows more money to be placed into the agreement for training, like $20-some thousand extra. And I go down to 15 hours a week versus 30 hours a week, and that elongates my time
Okay.
to do the training.
Okay.
So it's a win-win for me because I am retired. I don't need 30 hours a week.
Okay.
And it just allows more students to get some training.
Okay.
So,
The state has had an agreement with Bois Forte for the purpose of providing transportation to training to Bois Forte tribal members to work on future highway heavy construction projects. We're updating this agreement to update the Bois Forte authorized rep. The original agreement is being amended to, like Dave said, reduce, you're the training coordinator.
yes,
And then to increase, there is an increase to the indirect cost with that, but also to, it's not changing the original intent of the program, it's just moving some dollars around, one, to reduce your hours, and then to basically provide more educational opportunities for tribal members in the highway construction projects. If you don't mind, I'd like to read the resolution.
yes.
Whereas the Minnesota Department of Transportation has agreed to support an intergovernmental cooperative program with the Bois Forte tribal government that would provide transportation-related highway heavy occupations training to the Bois Forte band members, and whereas the Reservation Tribal Council finds that such a training program would be beneficial to Bois Forte band members seeking highway heavy occupations and employment, and that such training is complementary to Bois Forte Taro program, and whereas MnDOT has funds available to support the Bois Forte Workforce Opportunity Pilot Program, Now therefore be it resolved that the Bois Forte Reservation Tribal Council approves the attached second amendment to the partnership agreement first approved in Resolution 50-2018 and authorizes its chairwoman to execute the agreement. This is a pilot project, and if it's successful, will be offered hopefully to other reservations throughout the state. So we're a part of a pilot project that I think will be very successful. We've had a lot of participants, and thanks to Dave for his good work on the project and ensuring that tribal members, not only Bois Forte, but if we don't have the numbers from Bois Forte, we do try to fill it in with other tribal members from within the state.
Yes.
Any questions for Dave?
Just looking at that, the first page under the, from the, Zutz Lee, I think his name is, hopefully I said that right,
Lee Zoots,
Lee
Yeah.
Zutz,
yes.
okay. It says amendment overview, no impact to the overall contract amount, training coordinator pay decrease, reflect part-time status, money is reallocated to the indirect cost rate and training program line items, update to invoice processing, and Jenna Letty is the Bois Forte authorized representative. Well, that's all basically what it's about then, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments for Dave or questions?
Dave, what kind of projects or training you got coming up?
I'm working on the final report for the previous trainings, and that's due next Tuesday. I'll meet with Lee Zutz down in MnDOT to handle that. And then she and I working with the 49ers out of Hinckley. I'm working with them to set up a program possibly for this coming year and the following year to get some students, hopefully maybe right out of high school, and get them into a condensed training program and get them employed on that can of worms project that's going to be in Duluth. It's like a 3-year project.
How many
three-
training spots you looking for?
My calcs go out, I'd say maybe 6 per year,
All right.
you know, so yeah, going to local high schools
Yeah.
and kind of trying to pick and choose the best qualified kids to,
Yeah.
you know, get in this program and do well for themselves, because right after the Can of Worms project, that's like a 3-year project, the Blotnick Bridge is going to be reworked, and that'll go out to 2027. So if I can get some kids or young men or women in on that project, there's 7 years of work there for them,
Yeah.
Nice.
vested, you know, by the time they're 25. So
Da-
anyway, that's the goal. She and I are working with MnDOT on that. And, I mean, MnDOT and the 49ers out of Hinckley right there.
Yeah.
They have a really good shop. I mean, that place is fantastic. So,
Dave, I have a suggestion, just, I know that Dan Manick is a 49ers
Yes.
representative, and he's attended our Terra, or graduations for our previous students, but I believe that the 49ers also have simulators that they can bring to the schools to give the students a hands-on,
Yes.
hands-on time to see if they're interested in doing that and operating some of the equipment. So that might be a nice draw for some of the kids, getting those simulators there and really promoting the 49ers. So
yes,
that's great.
yeah.
Good.
That's the plan. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
sure, I'm positive it will.
Yeah.
So,
Good. If no other questions or comments for Dave, can we have a motion to approve the resolution for the MnDOT Bois Forte Partnership Agreement Amendment Number 2, MnDOT Contract 1030206?
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
thank you.
Miigwech,
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
I
Dave.
wasn't opposing it, I was approving it.
Okay.
All right, next we have
Noted.
Denis Villebrin with the Medical Emergency Fund.
Good morning, Destiny.
So, I just have a few changes that I'd like to make to, well, changes to the guidelines, and then hopefully update the, just the format and a few different updates on the application as well. So right now, does everyone know what the medical emergency fund is?
Maybe you might want to do a little brief explanation.
So right now, the way that the medical emergency fund is run is, if you were to have a family member or yourself end up having a medical emergency such as like heart attack or anything, there's an application that can be filled out and sent in with verifications, and at that point then we could allow up to $350 per calendar year to go towards you or the applicant or the family, however you guys, it's kind of up to the family how they want to disperse it, but it's $350 per patient for a year. So that's kind of a quick overview of it,
Okay.
I guess. So I started doing this about probably 3 months ago now. And I just realized that the guidelines aren't exactly really clear. So right now, it's called the Medical Emergency Fund. However, we have people using it for certain appointments. So if they have to go down to Minneapolis for a checkup, or Duluth for something, just for an appointment. Not really a medical emergency, but that's just kind of how it's been. And so I'm okay keeping with that way, but if we do, I'd like it all to be in the guidelines so people can look on there and see exactly what they can do. Just make it a little bit more clear to everybody. I've attached in the back a few spots for a few meeting minutes.
Yes.
And so the last changes that have been made that I can see from the meeting minutes were 2009. So it's been a while. And at that point too, I know it was kind of brought to this back in like '08 or so, whether you guys wanted to keep it as a medical emergency fund or do it a medical needs fund and keep the appointments. So I'm just trying to see if we should be keeping it as just a medical emergency fund and then put that in the guidelines that, appointments really aren't a medical emergency. Otherwise, if we would like to do the appointments, I'd like to change it to medical needs fund. The issue that I am kind of foreseeing is that if we change it to a medical needs fund, I don't know if I can keep it under budget for the year, especially because I would also like to up the amount that we give per year. Because right now, $350, if you split that between the whole family, that's not a ton.
One of my questions right off the bat is, when they go for these appointments, and I know they need to get to the appointments because it's important, but
Yeah.
are the most of the appointments like down in Duluth and the Twin Cities or somewhere else far away?
Yep, because we do have a mileage limit of, I believe is it 40 miles or 50 miles? Maybe it's a little more, I'm trying to see. We do have a mileage limit, it's 45 miles, and so, the appointments that I have been seeing have been Duluth and Minneapolis, because that's where people really struggle, because otherwise they have like big woods that they can take and, things like that, but Duluth and Minneapolis are the main ones. Otherwise, we do have band members that, they live on the west side of Minnesota, and they have family members that are getting transferred to Fargo. So we have people, especially a lot of people going to Fargo.
Okay.
Those are the main clinics or in hospitals that I've seen people going to.
Okay. My second question is, where does the money come from for this program?
I believe,
From where? Third-party revenue, okay.
Just so you, Kim mentioned that the money is coming from the third-party revenues through the medical clinic.
yep, and so we've been staying under budget, but like I said, I'm just kind of worried that if we open it up more, that I don't want to run out and have to turn people down especially if it's medical emergencies that they need the money for, I'd like to keep it. So year-to-date, we've been doing pretty good, but I just got a printout from accounting too.
My third question is that, you bring up some good points here, that the other one is that, does this fund usually run out like towards the end of the fiscal year?
No, we
No.
haven't had that issue as far as I'm aware of. I've talked to people that have done it in the past, and it sounds like that's never really been an issue. Right now, we used about 3/4 of it this past fiscal year. And then somewhere in that packet, I don't know exactly what page, I did break it down a little bit, so fiscal year 19 up until, I did the whole fiscal year. So I broke it down into how many emergencies we have versus appointments versus surgeries and births. Those are the 4 things that people come in and use this fund for.
Okay. But kind of wondering if, even if we could break it into 2 different separate programs, one for emergency medical and one for emergency medical needs, like, just a thought. Kim?
Kim, do you have a comment?
Well, on that, I was thinking you could have 2 different line items, one for emergencies and one for
One for-
needs, and it would be in the same fund, but you'd be able to track it better. But going back to the point of, you asked if it ever ran out of money, it used to. Because the fund was originally started of half the money,
The bingo, right?
and maybe Kathy can help me. It was half the money of the profits of the Speedo game at
Yes.
bingo.
Yep.
So, that's how it was originally funded, and yes, there's been too many new people, and so just a few people realized that it used to run out of money a long time ago.
So then you talked about, increasing the amount. What were you thinking of?
So right now, I guess each applicant is allowed up to $350. I was hoping to push it up to about $450. So right now, the way it breaks down is each night that you spend away, or each night that you need to stay overnight, we'll give you $50 towards a room, and then each day that you're down, you'll get $30 per food, and then we give you mileage, which is right now only at 21 cents a
Yeah.
mile.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Kim. Like I said, I've only been in it for about
That's
3
okay.
months, so.
that's okay.
Those are reimbursement rates by the IRS guidelines.
Okay, so that's why.
Yeah.
So I've seen people that, for instance, have to go down to Minneapolis, and especially if the family is willing to share between themselves. I mean, it's a hard amount to get everyone to stay down there, especially if someone is down there for an extended period of time. I know it's just to help them, but, hotel rooms and stuff are kind of expensive now.
Yeah.
So were you thinking of, asking for increase, like from the 20,000 you get per year up to maybe 25 or 30?
For the patient or for our?
No, for the budget, it says budget 20,000 per fiscal year, year-to-date 13,000 as of August.
Oh, yeah, so that's just our budget, that's what we use right now, so right now that's our budget is 20,000.
Okay.
And then, so year-to-date as of August was 13, and then for the full year, since I was able to get that printout, we ended up using, about 14,230, or $240.
Okay.
So, like I said, we're staying under budget, I'm thinking more, if we did it more for appointments, it's gonna increase a lot of the amount of people using this. And so I don't want to have it happen where we run out of money and someone has a medical emergency and we're not available to help.
Yeah, that has happened, to our family personally. We tried to go up and access the medical emergency fund, and we were told that they didn't have one, so, so that does happen.
And I want to point out that it's per family. So, and I'll just use myself as an example. Let's just say that I had one of my family members in the hospital on an emergency basis, and let's say my son accessed the account before me, then that means that that person gets the money. I can't go access it.
Yep.
Because I know we ran into issues with that in the past where multiple family members were trying to access it. And then the other thing I see on I like your new application, and it says that I agree that we need to make inquiries that are necessary to verify. We do need verification of the emergency. but also that if they do make false statements, because we've heard situations where people have received this funding for appointments and not gone to the appointment, where they've spent the money, so they, by signing this application, they understand that if they make false statements, they're subject to criminal prosecution under the Bois Forte Criminal Code for making false claims, and that if they, another statement on your application states that for any reason I do not use the funds for the purpose requested, I will be required to return the funds to Bois Forte. If I fail to do so, I agree that the amount may be deducted from any per capita payments payable to me. And it's sad that that happens, but, you know, it
And
very rarely happens, but it does happen.
And that's another kind of issue that I'm gonna have to tackle a little bit later on, once I can get this stuff kind of moving, is because I have had people report these things. It's just, I don't really know how I can verify, because it's been reported to me that, you know, so-and-so took the money to go see their mother and they never showed up. And so then we have other family members calling, telling me this, but at that point, I don't really know how I can verify that it's true or not, you know? And so that's kind of another issue I'm trying to tackle after I get all this
Okay.
stuff taken care of.
Jenna, maybe we can ask legal what we can do with regards to that, for documentation or verification of making the appointment. Because I know when, or it used to be when people accessed county services, that they needed a verification that they went to the appointment right when they showed up for their appointment. They have to get something in writing from that provider, that office, doctor's office, that they were seen. So I don't know if that might be
That
an
would be a good
option,
one.
so, but, yeah. And I'm very happy that you did this, because 2009, we know that hotel costs are increasing, we know that everything is going up, and some of our policies and some of our guidelines stay the same, so I really appreciate you taking the time to do this and update the application, because there are situations that arise, and the money sometimes isn't enough to help.
Yep.
And, you know, I know people understand that it's up to, and there's a formula that Health Services uses for the calculation of the trip. It's not that you're gonna get an automatic 450, or if it's approved, but there is a calculation of the mileage and the rooms and that, so.
Yep, and then with that too, it also kind of helps because a lot of people, like you said, don't use the full 350.
Yeah.
And so if there's someone that happens to get sick again or have another medical event 5 months down the road,
They still can
they
access.
can still access the remaining amount up to that 400 or 350.
Good. Is there an issue, I see that on one of your comments that you made with regards to this, is a timeline to pick up the check. Has that been an issue, a 10-day limit for pickup for checks?
It hasn't yet. That kind of was going towards if we are gonna keep this as medical emergency fund. Because like I said, I've had issues where even though it's the medical emergency fund, people are using this as appointments. Well, lots of times they'll wait till last minute to do it anyway. And so it's kind of a rush, but, we were just kind of thinking that, you know, if this is a true medical emergency, you wouldn't wait
Yeah.
30 days to pick up a check. So we were just trying to get this more broken down so people
Okay.
can understand, you know, you need to pick up the check, because a lot of them actually expect me to drive it to them.
Yeah.
And as much as I'd love to, or especially the people that we have in Vermillion, it's been kind of a struggle. Because we don't, the clinic here doesn't send our stuff through the transit. So it's just kind of relying on each other to get it there. And so I've had issues where people in Vermillion kind of expect me to drive it to them.
Yeah.
So that's been another thing. So that's just our way of telling people, you need to be able to pick up the check or get it in the mail.
I see on one of your questions, it says to add stepchildren to immediate family members, and what about grandparents? And do we have foster children in there too?
I don't believe so right now.
Because I know we have foster homes, and, you know, they're taking care of children, so I would like to maybe include foster children.
Foster children.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had issues where, I mean, the grandparents they do take care of the children.
Yes.
And because they're not listed in there, it's kind of hard to still, we can't really give them the money because it's technically not in the guidelines. And I'd like to, so I just want to make it clear on here so people can see who can access it.
Because I know that, we know nowadays with the with the drug crisis and whatever, that a lot of grandparents are taking care of their grandchildren and are the legal guardians or whatever, so I think that's a really good idea.
Kim, got a question for you. If we, as an example, let's say we increase it up to 30,000, would the third-party revenue be able to sustain that?
I think that's a,
Not that I have the answer off the top of my head. It would have to be looked at because we're not done doing their budgets. We're still trying to sort it all out.
Okay.
is that something we could work with Dan on?
Yeah, we
Because
were,
he's got his plans for the year for staffing or whatever, so,
Yeah, we're still working on his budgets.
okay.
And that, I was just looking up to see if the IRS rates had changed for medical travel. So you should put it in there that each year, you know, because like each year the IRS publishes the rates. So you could have it changed that they match the IRS rates each year, so if they go up, they go up automatically instead of having to bring it to the council every year.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think the other thing too was for the requirement or for whatever to show that they actually went there, you know, like maybe a hotel room receipt, something from the doctor or nurse saying, hey, yeah, so-and-so was here and visited their mom. You know, it's nothing medical, it's just showing that they were there, you know, or hey, so-and-so came to an appointment, something.
Just something on the back of the application maybe connected,
Yeah.
so when I send them out, they have it and,
Yep.
okay.
Any other comments or questions or?
I just have one on the requirements on the number 3 there. It says verification from facility the patient is located. You think you should add in there like I know that when Teresa used to do this, she would tell the patient or the family that was going to be. They'd say, well, who am I supposed to get the verification from? So she would tell them either the doctor's office or the medical facility or the social worker that works out of them hospitals. So
Yeah,
they
make it a little
they
more
knew
clear.
where to go. And then she also told them to when they'd be looking for a hotel, that most of the medical facilities have a hotel medical rate for the participating hotels close to that facility. So she'd tell them to ask the hospital or wherever they had the appointment if there was a hotel medical rate close by where they would get a lower rate than normal people would check into. So
Yep, so usually, the people that request, unless it's someone here that has used this before and they know a little bit more about the program, they usually give me a call or, I'll talk to them at some point just to make sure that they understand everything. And then we have actually another printout that, I believe it's a Holiday Inn down in Minneapolis, cause that's the main one that people have issues with is, cause it's expensive to go
yeah,
down
because I
there.
know Teresa used to have all those little those little things that would tell which hotels were
Yep,
that had the medical rate, like in Duluth or the cities, and she would just give that to the person that was coming in asking for that. I don't know if they still have them up at the
They have
but I know she had those in her office.
yeah, I know they do, we do have one printout, cause like I said, people ask for lodging if they need help with it. I just have a printout saying if you're going to Minneapolis, this is one that we do work with, quite often, and they will give you discounts because they know kind of what your, issue is down there, so.
Yeah, I know this really very helpful, a really helpful program. I know it's really helped a lot of our band members over the years, and it's a good use of dollars that the tribe has put aside for those band members to utilize this program. So.
Destiny, did you, if there's are there any other questions for Destiny? Do you want to bring it back with the changes
With
for
the
final
official-
approval?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
And maybe add foster children in along with stepchildren and grandparents?
Yep, I can do that.
And
Did you
then
guys
maybe-
have an opinion on which way to kind of sway whether we're gonna keep it as a medical emergency fund? And then we can include like surgeries on there, cause that's a pretty emergent thing. Or if you guys wanna open it up to appointments, or do you wanna split it like how Shane was talking about?
I think that, since it's already been kind of it's been covering appointments, I think we should probably just keep it
Just
as
keep
is,
it that
because
way.
the band members, have become accustomed to it, so. I think the other thing too is, to check with Dan to make sure that the, third-party revenue can sustain, if we increased it to 25,000 or even 30,000, that it can sustain that over the years.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Were we helpful?
Yes, that was
Okay.
helpful. Yeah, so I will bring this back at once I get everything finalized for
Okay.
you.
Good deal.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for
guys.
doing this.
Yep, Big Rich.
Good job.
Next is George Strong with a sole source request from Keith Secola Contracts for the KBFT Native Americana Series with Keith Secola in the amount of $15,470.
Good morning, George.
Wow.
I see they combined, excuse me, two of these contracts. There's Brett Ross at WELY as an independent contractor, and then Keith Secola. So the actual amount for Keith is $12,500. And Brett would be $2,790, I believe, or $2,970.
$29.70 for a total of $15,470.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
basically to get us into production of this Native Americana series. And we've got a commitment by Native Voice One, which is like a national distributor.
Yep.
With over, I think they said like over 100 affiliates
Wow.
that they would be able to provide it to, so.
Good. And the contracts will begin November 1st?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions for George?
How long are you gonna run it?
As long as it's popular.
Okay.
And what we're hoping to do is in-house some of the stuff that Brett is doing.
Mhm.
So eventually our own people will be
Oh,
doing
good.
that, yep.
Great. Any other questions for George? If not, I've got a request to sole source from Keith Secola and Brett Ross, contracts for KBFT Native Americana Series in the total amount of $15,470.
Move.
Move to approve made by Shane. Is there a second? Second by Chief. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
All right, thanks, guys.
Keep up the good job.
Yep, thank you.
Is he gonna bring his Indian car?
Next, we have Natalie Goodsky with a correction on resolution number 37-2020, Title 6, April 1st, 2020, not April 11th, 2020.
Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm just, I had to make this correction on the resolution of 37-2020, Title 6. We had it at April 11th, 2020. Just make the correction to April 1st, 2020.
Okay,
And then we can send the application in.
great. Do we have a motion to approve that correction on Resolution 37-2020, Title 6 application from April 1, 2020, not April 11, 2020?
Move.
Moved by Chief,
Second.
second by Shane. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank
We
you.
didn't
weekend.
catch that either, so good.
All right, you guys have a nice weekend.
You too, have a
too.
great weekend and happy holidays too.
Okay, I don't see Dan here yet. I know he had something going on this morning. And I think he's also presenting Melissa's. So we'll go to Kim with appointment of the new PAC treasurer.
Okay. We're going to Kim. Good morning, Kim.
The first thing I would like to have approved is to have the appointment of a new PAC, which is Political Action Committee Treasurer. And this is for the political donations we do. We have to do reporting to the state on the Campaign Finance Board rules. And it used to be Edith, and then when Edith retired, Sue took it over as part of that job. But we would like to transfer it to Erin.
Erin Morrison.
Yep.
And I see it will require a one-day training in Duluth or the Twin Cities.
Yep.
And then she'll be responsible once she gets the training to file these reports.
Yep, they're quarterly. It's
Okay.
basically, and like I said in the memo, that we do about 20 checks per year. So it's not a lot of, it's not like a great big one, and it's not a lot of work.
Mhm.
But you have to get the training, and they're very fussy about their reports.
Okay, good. Any questions for Treasurer of the Bois Forte PAC, PAC? To appoint Erin Morrison? Do we have a motion to approve the appointment then of Erin Morrison to be the PAC Treasurer for Bois Forte effective today, Kim?
Yeah.
Or- Okay, effective today.
Move.
Moved by Chief, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? One silent. Motion carried.
The next item I would like to have approval for is the change in the bookkeeping training. When I had first presented it, it was gonna be about $6,000 or $7,000, depending on the number of attendants. And then I opened it up for people, and we went from 10 to 15 people to 55 people.
Nice.
And so the cost would be about $11,700, and since I had a specific amount prior, I needed to
Request a change.
request the change. It would be out of the accounting department budget. But the other thing that I wanted to discuss also is it's currently scheduled for December 5th and 6th. And I'm wondering if we should reschedule that to February, because we're in a continuing resolution
Mhm.
again for 30 days.
Can it hold off till February?
Yeah, we have a lot of new staff in accounting, and we're
Okay.
getting some new staff.
Okay, so,
We need it, but we could probably get by pushing it back.
okay.
But we need to get it done.
And I see you open the training to program managers, senior management, and high school students. Did we get any high school students interested?
I know there was one for sure
Good.
that Travis had told me about, but I had left for like 3 or 4 in that count,
Okay.
because I wasn't sure.
Okay, good.
Try to recruit some new accountants.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Do you guys want to hold off on that training till February, maybe? Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the change in cost of the bookkeeping training to be implemented in February in the amount of $11,700, which is in the accounting budget?
Move.
Moved by Travis. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Okay, and the last thing
Oh,
I'd like to have approved is change to the personnel policy, section 702.7. In the policy, it said report, and this is in regards to travel and turning in your travel information.
mhm.
So it says, it's the reporting part, and in the policy, it had said employees must report on travel and provide receipts within 5 days originally. And it had always been that way, but it was not followed very
Mhm.
well. And then this past winter, we had training, and listening to people, we had changed it to 10 days.
Mhm.
And tried to implement that. And in talking to people, because some people are still, some people say they only had contacted me and voiced their concern and would like to have it 30 days before they have to turn in their receipts, or, you know, turn in their travel and information. And I took that into consideration, and so we went back and talked to my staff, and so we are willing to go to 15 working days to turn in your travel.
So that's 3 weeks. When you say
Basically, yeah.
working days, that's
Working
3
days,
weeks.
because it never said working days,
Yeah.
because that was the other question we'd get a lot. So it's 15 days working, 15 working days, and then their program manager has 5 days to get it to accounting.
Mhm.
So really, that is, you know,
30 days.
30 days. We'd prefer it more often, and so, like I had included it with your packet, because one of the one thing that we have in our audit is our closeout process. And it's about getting stuff done timely, is
Yep.
what it comes down to. And so we need to do this, reporting agencies, some of them, we have to have our reports done 20 days after the end of the calendar month.
Mhm.
So this is really kind of doing that. And since we were changing this, there's a couple other things we
Mhm.
added here. So we directly put it in there, travel expenses not submitted within the 15 working days will not be considered for reimbursement from the organization. And so if there's extenuating circumstances, will only be considered and approved by the executive director, and those decisions are deemed to be final.
Okay.
Then the next thing, this is new, is all travel advances and reimbursement will be processed by direct deposit for individuals transferring. As our organization grows, we have people at more remote locations, and we're trying to get people paid, reimbursed timely, or
Yeah.
get their travel advances. And part of this is testing it out to see if we can make this work for, eventually for per capita to allow direct deposit.
Oh, okay.
But with travel, it's, everyone will have to have it direct deposited. There's not a check or this, so people will do that, and that would start with the first, you know, travel reimbursements in January,
Okay.
because we're getting a new staff person in, and that, so we can get people, and what we'll do is, we'll have to run what's called the pre-note with the bank to
Okay.
verify bank accounts. And
Oh,
so it
okay.
has to go to somewhere that we can verify that it's your account and bank. Because like I said, this is part of getting ready to do it for per capita to try. So there's that. And with that, then we will have to change the deadline of travel payments for each week to Tuesdays at noon, because right now it's Thursdays at 1.
Yeah, that's really,
It's, and so then we scramble, and then unfortunately, like the people in Vermillion that get their travel checks there don't get them, you know, for that week, because we can't, the transit picks up the bags to go over there at 2. We don't have them done because we're deadline and we're still entering and
Okay.
processing. So this way, because yeah, you're supposed to have it done 2 days in advance, so every Friday, basically, people's travel reimbursement would be in their bank accounts.
mhm.
And then you don't have to worry about
Picking up your check
check, or there's issues of people's checks. You know, 'cause there's some people who go to multiple locations.
Mhm.
I think this would better serve the employees and be more beneficial to them.
Well, I know, and I'll use our urban reps as an example. You know, they're working in the Minneapolis and Duluth areas. We've got our staff working in Vermillion and
We have one in the falls, too.
one in the Falls, and,
Yep.
you know, it's difficult. I like the idea of the 15 working days and then the 5 days. Just for everybody's information, years past, you know, everybody gets busy and forgets to reconcile their travel. And sometimes at the end of a fiscal year, people are trying to spend down their grants, and I'm not saying this is, it's kind of on certain occasions that this happens, is that people will submit 6 months' worth of travel at one time, and I really strongly believe for accounting purposes that it should be reconciled as soon as possible with a timeline on it like this. You know, the 5 days was kind of really cutting it short, because sometimes people are gone, maybe for family situations or whatever, those extenuating circumstances, but I think you've done a lot of thinking with this, and my question is, does everybody have a bank account?
I
that
don't
you're
know,
aware
but they'll have to, this gives them
Or
time.
a savings account or something?
Yeah,
that could-
that gives them time to get one set up. They can go and get one set up.
At
and
the
take
credit union
Or their institution.
wherever they want?
It's their choice of which banking institution. And then last thing that I put in there is because we'd get a lot of questions as people thought local mileage reimbursement for like going to meetings in the local area wasn't really travel, but I put that definition in there. So travel is defined, any expenses, away from the office, any mileage local or out of state, per diem, hotel parking. And so that they realize, because a lot of people were thinking it was just out-of-state travel we were talking
okay.
about, so.
So it's all
any-
travel?
Yeah.
Okay. And go ahead, Shane.
You can't build up their mileage, just say they hold it on for a whole month and then turn it in.
No. And you're looking at a January 1 effective date then?
Basically, yeah, well, January 1 doesn't really work out because
Oh.
it's like on a Thursday.
Oh,
And so the first, I think,
first working day in January?
it's the one after that, because it would be, it says this will begin with the travel process for the week of January 7th, 2020, for the direct deposit part.
Okay,
But a lot of it's just clarification.
okay.
and-
Will this help with, will this help with accounting for the travel? And I know that, issuing checks all the time and
I hope so.
will streamline things better?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope it streamlines things better, and mostly, the two biggest things I'm looking from it is to make sure people who are remotely away get processed better, or get
Yep.
more timely receipt of their reimbursements, but also to help program managers manage their budgets so
Yes.
that they're not scrambling
Right.
or they're overspent and we have to do a lot of reclassing or something.
Okay. I think it's a good job. I think
Yep.
it's a good change.
So we'll get
Comments?
it out and people, so they know that they can start getting up their bank accounts set up.
Comments, suggestions?
And then you ran these by Corey, the changes for the personnel policy?
I had, yeah.
He's doing
It
interviews.
it was, I
believe.
have added a little bit, but he was okay with it.
Okay.
He knew, we've been talking about this for a while, yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the updates to the personnel policy, section 702.7 per Kim's recommendations, with the changes for 15 working days to submit to authorized program manager, 5 working days for the program manager to submit it to accounting, and then can be approved outside the policy by the executive director for extenuating circumstances, changing the deadline for travel to be